if you want to.
Cool.
Yeah. Hi, Angelique. We're just getting started here. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this week's archetype is the hermit. And the hermit is pictures the archetypal old wise man. And as you can see, it looks like a friar, and the friar embodies a wisdom that's not to be found in books. And according to Jung, that figure personifies an archetype of the spirit, the pre-existent meaning hidden in the chaos of life. So like the fool, he's a wanderer. They're brothers of the spirit. Unlike the fool, he does not look over his shoulder. He no longer needs to consider what lies behind. He has assimilated the experiences of the past. Neither does he scan the distant horizon seeking out future potentials. He is content with the immediate present. He will apprehend and deal with it according to his own illumination. His lamp is a symbol for the individual insight of a mystic, whereas the Pope's chief emphasis lies in religious experience under the conditions prescribed by the Church. The hermit offers the possibility of individual illumination as a universal potential. The flame the hermit holds could represent the quintessential spirit inherent in all life, the central core of meaning, that fifth element which transcends the four elements of mundane reality. He offers that inward light that alone dispels spiritual chaos and darkness. The hermit has found within himself what has been ignored or lost by society. The hermit no longer remains contained in the participation mystique, the primitive unconscious shared by the mass of mankind. But having attained a secure inner unity, he may feel better able to expose himself to the chaos of current events with less fear of becoming confused by them or submerged into the prevalent mass unconscious. In myths and fairy tales, whenever the hero in search of the treasure has lost his way or reached an impasse, the old wise man usually appears bearing a new light and hope. In a similar way, such a figure can materialize in our own dreams. He is solitary, yet he wears the habit of a religious order with which he evidently keeps contact. And he is pictured in route which emphasizes his ability to move easily between the two worlds. So that was this week's.
It's very interesting as a person who has found an orientation that is different from the conventional. You know, Kat, I think of your dreams that you make yourself small because this outer world is somewhat not, you have to separate yourself from it somehow, you know, and you do it by making yourself small, not as a hermit. You know, Daisetsu Suzuki, you know, the Zen guy used to say that he thought it was better to find Satori in downtown Tokyo than in the mountains, you know. But I mean, the idea is the forest years, at least you have the forest within you, even though you're in downtown Tokyo, you know, you make yourself small, you know, and, you know, in the Grail quest, you know, Parsifal's or the Fisher King's brother is a hermit, and Parsifal goes to see him after he doesn't ask the question in the Grail castle, because a knight is not supposed to ask questions, you know, of the lamed king. That was the whole idea, is for him to ask the question that would lift the curse of the Grail castle. And and this is what Jung says we don't do with our dreams. you have a dream and you don't ask the question. And so, you know, you have not, you're not going to become the living Grail because you didn't ask the question. But so then he's kicked out of the castle, and then you don't find him anywhere. He's nowhere. The Grail Castles now is not there anymore. So he goes to the Fisher King's brother, who's a hermit, and the hermit says the rule is you only have one chance, and you lost it. And he says that he had no rules, and he was going to find it. And he spent the rest of his time trying to find that ability to ask the question that did not exist when he was a conventional person, you know, a traditional person. But anyway, that is just very interesting. I think these are so useful. I mean, the whole idea is this is sort of the Western Kundalini, you know, these figures in the tarot, you know, or the Western I Ching, or, you know, Book of the Dead. I mean, they have together, they make more sense than they do separately, you know. But anyway, we're going to start again, just finishing up on this map of no man's land. Just to sum it up, you know, the boy is wandering in the mountains. It's very foggy. Doesn't know which ridge he took. He gets to the top of the ridge, looks down. There's nothing there. It's totally, it is completely missing. And let me see, just okay. Oh, I just was going to say hi to Dahlia and Janita just came in too. We're just getting started, Janita, so don't worry about it. I'm just summing up this the answer to this hopeless poem that she wrote was this story where the boy is the hero, not her. In the poem, she was the hero, if you can call her a hero. Okay. Well, anyway, so he climbs to the top of the ridge. He looks over. There's nothing there, and now he knows he can never be the same again because he's seen this. I think this whole book is like, say, you're Jeremiah or Hosea or something, and you had a vision. You'll never be the same again. So this whole analysis is like, say, that Jung was to analyze Jeremiah, who had a vision, you know, you'll never be the same again. How do you, and you didn't really earn the thing. It was, it came on you and just totally pulled the rug out from under you. Now what do? You know, and that's what really is the situation she's in. So she goes up to the top. He goes up to the top of the ridge, sees nothing, knows he can never be the same again. Returns to the town. No one has ever heard of this place, and he talks to the boys. Have never heard of it. And by the way, there's two quaternities here. There is the boy, and then there is the priest. The priest, I think the boy represents the feeling function in her, which is her inferior function. It's her animus, and the young and adventurous animus, and inquiring, and not conquered by this blackness that she was conquered by. And then the priest is the thinking function, the one who offers the conceptual way of coping with this problem, which is not possible. The crystal seeker is the sensate function. The crystal seeker tells her, well, the priest says he's been there. You don't need a map. Take the cross with you. That's all you need. And then the crystal seeker is says he's curious about the stone, but he says it's not really worth anything. Now I think, represents the sensate world. She's a thinking sensate. Now, the chamois hunter is the hunter of goats, the mountain goats, is a little more helpful. I mean, he says, oh, yes, I know someone. Now, this is the intuition. This is the intuitive function. He's the one that, the intuitive, if you're going to be hunting goats on the mountains, you need to be very intuitive. So he says, now he's part of her unconscious functions, but one that's a little bit more conscious. And he says, yes, there has been a person who had a stone like that, but he's been in the insane asylum for 20 years. And so anyway, he then, there's this quaternity, the boy, the feeling function, the priest, the thinking function, the crystal seeker who buys and sells stones, the sensate function, and then the goat hunter, who is the intuitive function. So there's a quaternity. And then as he's lying by the stream, meditating and brooding on this thing, he has an auditory vision, really. He hears 4 voices. And this was really an auditory vision. I mean, she heard it. She did not write it. And the first one says, in the middle of it is a square fortress with golden walls and 4 golden gates. The second one says, let's make a frontal attack on the powers of darkness. Now, you can probably assign functions to these 4 people too. Third says, of course, I shouldn't advise anyone to go there unless they could not help it. And of course, not without a map. And the fourth one says, and he seems like he's the most knowledgeable, and there is not a map. That's the whole point of it. There's not a map, So anyway, that's the story. And now he's going to go through, in pretty much at length, the various themes in this. So you're Jeremiah, and you had this vision. You're the boy. How do we handle this? Well, first of all, what is no man's land? It's this unoccupied space between the opposites. It's a piece of waste or unowned land that doesn't belong to anybody, certainly doesn't belong to the ego. So who does it belong to? It belongs to something that is non-human, non-ego anyway, gods or daemons, and who are situated between the 2 opposing forces. And in war, this is in World War I, that's where the term came from, really. It's that area between the forces that's torn and injured by constant conflict. It's also where, during a ceasefire, the opposing sides meet. And it is unowned or occupied by the conscious mind. Now, the conscious mind always takes possession of everything it owns, whether it belongs to it or not. It says it's my product, because there's no one here but me. I'm the only one here. So anything that comes into my mind, I created. But it cannot claim this, nor does it dare to enter. Now, this area is chaos in a double sense. It's not yet subject to the ordering mind of ego, and it's full of unknown and undiscovered potentialities. It's the land beyond ego. It's is the land of the irrational archetypal powers, for good or for bad. Now, there may be death or life lurking in it, but for her, the woman, to meet it was to meet fear itself. For one can become lost in it, be engulfed in it and kept prisoner by it. And that's a reference to her claustrophobia, which was totally immobilizing to her. Now, as a vacuum, though, any vacuum, this is the idea of the hermetic vessel, the one that's sealed vacuum, or or of the quieting of the ego consciousness, is to create a vacuum, because something is going to fill the vacuum if you create it, and so it attracts attention or libido. Now, if the boy wants to enter it, and that means facing up to the fear and the beginning of its conquest. This is the beginning of comprehension. So the term no man's land at first seems accidental, an echo of something remote that is hardly understood in its implications, but it really shows how genuine and rich a formulation that can be arrived at in dreams or active imaginations, compared with the thinness of consciousness and intellectual formulations. If Diane consents, I'd like to send you a copy of her dream, because it kind of proves the richness and the genuineness of the formulation. Now, the symbols of rocks and stones appear in both dreams. In the first, the stone represents the helpless victim that is struck and wounded by lightning and malignant wind, and she's both identified with the unconscious in the fact that she's this prisoner held captive there and possessed by it. But in the story, the feeling is different. Here, the black stone that the boy is picked up, although a reminder of an unknown and threatening world, is at the same time an inducement to inquiry and adventure. Now, what if that did not occur in the poem? It needed the boy, it needed her feeling function, her animus, to present it to her as a possibility. And so this black stone contains a hidden dynamism of constructive value, and it's her treasure. It's the clue to something mysterious, and it provides the finder with a seed of information which others do not have. So it is the symbol for a kind of individual distinction. It's both a focus of irritation and a question that has been posed that must be answered, or the finder will never be easy again. Now, this is the hermit. This is the person who has had this vision. They can never be easy again. And, few of us have this experience. So it can be said that the stone is the expression and the question posed to her by her symptom, by her just almost hysterical, it immobilized her for days, And so now, yet it is also an individual secret. Now it isolates and distinguishes the sufferer from other people. Other people don't have this problem. And but on this isolation, which seemed hopeless and final, a static, unanswerable problem to ego, in the story with the hero boy who represents the feeling function, it's the impulse. The stone is the impulse to healing and to the cure. And so it always has that peculiar constructive, that our suffering always has that peculiar constructive side. It's an attempt at a self-cure, this suffering. And it's because out of this can be formulated the figure of the boy. Now remember, the mortar and pestle, that's suffering. And nothing can begin until you had the mortar and the pestle. So the boys are animus figure, but it still can't be foretold if he'll find the answer and put her mind at rest. However, the difference is so striking. You know, in the poem, it's utter defeat, and as her utter defeat is a fixed and stony person. In the story, the stone is filled with a magnetism which draws the finder further into the adventure and into discovery. So here, this black stone, which was her utter defeat previously, is the black stone, becomes the symbol of the quest. And now the lapis is a symbol of both the beginning and the goal, the stone, the philosopher's stone. And when it refers to the beginning of the work and the goal of the work. And in the story, this stone was nothing special. It was just taken among the loose rocks on the ridge. And in alchemy, that's the lapis offers itself to us in lowly form, the commonest thing to be found anywhere, or even instur core invenitur. It is found in filth. Now we had Ava had a dream about this, that something was found in filth. I just wanted to share a dream. I didn't even remember it, but I just wanted to share it with this was pretty much almost exactly the same dream that that Ava had. Let me see if I can get it up here. All right, let's see. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All right, now the most beautiful truth that was ever written was written on a piece of paper, and it floated down from above, and it settled into a toilet. Now, I knew this to be the place where it should reside. The most beautiful truth that was ever written, okay? And I was going to flush the toilet, but I knew this would forever remove this gift of the spirit from the toilet, you know. And anyway, there was a little more to the dream, but this was almost exactly Ava's dream in the thing. But anyway, it's this common stone that's found in filth. The idea is that it's the prima materia, the blackness of the stone. It's black. It's no whiteness in it, and so it is. But it's the means of producing the gold. The most beautiful piece of truth and poetry ever written should reside in the toilet, is what the dream said. And from the art and the grace of God, it can be transmuted into a second manifest state. I do have just one more, and I just want to show you on a couple of these things how this comes up in our own dreams. Let me just see if I can find it real quick here. I don't know if I can. Oh yeah, here it is. Now this was a very similar dream here that I had that was like this. Okay, now this one is I'm the poer. I'm flying over a muddy field full of puddles, and the anima has a bag, a trash bag that keeps growing and growing, and she is filling it with all the dreams and all that I've had that I just haven't ignored, all the questions that Parsifal should have asked, and she puts it into the trash bag. And when she does this, it becomes gold. You know, that what was discarded by this puer being, the one who has no standpoint on the earth, who flies above it all, who is me, and everything I discard, the anima gathers and collects, So anyway, it's just a couple dreams about the black stone, something similar to the prima materia. So anyway, now what is interesting about the lapis, is this gold that is sown in the blackness of earth, like grains of wheat from which it is to be liberated. Now Kat had a dream where there was the most divine food, this chocolate that was full of pus, of the in front the effluent from an infected wound, and she needs to remove it. And then meanwhile, her animus stands in front of her with his back to her, wearing a hood, and he says, without turning around, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I know what I'm doing." So this was very similar to me to Vasilisa and the doll separating the seeds, the moldy seeds from the good seeds. So the idea is that the two things, the paradoxical qualities of the black stone in this dream, the one that was buffeted by lightning and the wind, and then the one that is the inducement to discovery and inquiry and adventure. There it is simultaneously both from hell in its extreme suffering. It is very hellish, and yet it is also redeeming. It's the potential for integration as the cornerstone of the temple of wisdom. So what must happen is this extreme suffering, this hellishness, must be transmuted to the redeeming thing, the divine. And this is done through both comprehension, through guessing Rumpelstiltskin's name. Okay, Rumpelstiltskin is a very threatening figure to our growth, to our he's going to steal our child, take it away, until we guess his name, so until we comprehend it. So so the blackness is very interesting, the darkness, and it's the initial state, the suffering state, and it is the darkness of the soul and its afflictions. But on the other hand, the darkness of the soul and its suffering and afflictions is the absolute prerequisite for the beginning of the work, for the germ of wheat to be fecundated, integrated. We are humbled and made miserable by the darkness, and only by being humbled and made miserable by this darkness can it ever show us its light. And so that's the prima materia. And so the ego must be confronted with this crisis before it can transform. The initial condition must be unbearable. But to stay in the unbearable state is a psychosis. So we must enter the unbearable state. This is the night sea journey, where you go down there and you're tortured and cut up, chopped up into pieces, but then you come out on the other side. This is the shaman journey, and you come out on the other side. And now when you go back to your village, you can teach. There's something that you have a secret now that no one else knows. You can be healing. Let's say not teach, but you can be healing because you've experienced total annihilation. Now, someone who's had a near-death experience, experienced total annihilation. Everywhere they go, they are a healing presence. So this fear, the black stone is unassimilated. It's unconscious material with all its destructive potentialities for disruption. By the way, that's the name that Satan. This comes up in my active imagination. Satan is called the disruptor, the interrupter. He's the one who interrupts. Okay. Now, what does he interrupt? He interrupts your union with the soul, your union with the depths. How does he do it? He says, "Oh, don't you think it's more important to do something out here in this world, something that would serve ego's purposes? Don't you think ego's purposes, they're real. They're far more important than what you're doing here. This is all ephemeral and not real." So he's the disruptor. But he's also called Lucifer, the bringer of light. So even though there's this double aspect, even to the interrupter, So anyway, she what she's experienced is an invasion, invasion of the unconscious seeped into her. But this invasion, this fear of insanity, really, because she was insane. She was absolutely sat there in a catatonic state, could not move for days. And so she, didn't know what was going to happen. So this invasion, this must be integrated. The blackness of the stone must be differentiated. Who's going to do it? The ego is not going to do it. That's the reason you're in the catatonic state. The idea is it is a message for a desperate and despairing call from the unconscious to recognize its presence. Any nightmare has this quality, the one of a threatening of insanity. I mean, that's what you really are experiencing in a nightmare, is the threatening of insanity. Whatever is happening is an unbearable state. Ego is under unbelievable stress and threat of annihilation, really, of being eaten, of being, of being imprisoned, of being executed, whatever, So this initial condition represents the state of an emotional crisis, a disjunctio, a disunion, in which the different components of the psyche are torn apart, and the different sides which have fought each other to a standstill. We have finally, at the standstill, we reach the impasse where no progress is possible, and only chaos in a confused state, the black gulf where nothing lives except the night's inhuman pain remains. Okay, so anyway, that is what we experience in dreams and fairy tales, is that there is no one is going to lift the enchantment or cure the curse of the castle through the king's favored sons. It takes nature and the fool, the boy, the ignorant boy, the one who is naive is the only one who can save her at this point. And so now the boy in her has no doubt been stimulated into a good deal of mental activity, of inquiry anyway. And but his inquiry meets with no success. He talks with the priest. It's clear the priest recognizes the predicament of the boy, but his only answer is to offer an answer which may ring true for himself, but doesn't satisfy the boy. The priest says to take the cross and use that for your map. And now, but the boy knows this is not going to work. And this is corroborated by the symbol of the labrum. It is okay. Let me see. Just a second here. Let's just look at the labrum. I mean, what the labrum is supposed to look like, you know, is this, like this. All right. And what is at the top of it are in Greek the first two letters of Christ. It's called the Chi-Rho. And this was, I believe it was Constantine, used this as his symbol. In this sign shall you proceed or conquer. But let's look at her labrum. You know, it looks like this. Now, it's not the Chi-Rho, it's not Christ. It's 1, 2, 4. That's what her symbol is. So it already tells you that the priest's solution is not going to work for her, you know. So so now the boy feels the priest and her are talking about two different places. The boy will have to find out for himself. He cannot accept anything on the evidence of the priest. Now, this is going to be very important. What is this profound problem for modern people is their so-called emotional problems may in the end turn out to be religious ones. Okay. Now, the word religion here is being used in its widest possible sense as denoting the problem of formulating fundamental and ontological values and an orientation towards our source, towards nature, and following the inner law. So it's the value, I would say, is a meaning, whatever meaning is. So it's a supra-personal, not ego-related point of reference. So it's a consciousness outside of ego and yet informs ego directly, not indirectly. We hear it talks, okay? And it is the point of reference and meaning for not only one's own life, but for life in general. Where do we hear it? In dreams and in visions and through amplifying dreams. So now, although you could be aware of the religious significance of the problem, and that you say it's a religious problem, but traditional religion does not appear to be able to give the answer that most modern people are looking for. And they feel they have to find their individual answer. When you go to look for the Grail unveiled, you go into the forest at the point where it's darkest and there's no way or path, because if you follow someone else's path, you're sure to go astray. That's the idea of this individual answer. And by the way, the fact that is the individual answer tells you ego is not the individual. It has no answers. So if you say I'm individual because I'm an ego who has no relationship to the depths and I do whatever the hell I want, I'm an individual. I don't follow conventional laws. That's not individual. That is just antisocial or something, but it's certainly not what they're talking about here, the individual answer. And now the reason, there's many reasons why they can't, that traditional religion is is not going to help. And here is one that Edward Edinger gave. I mean, it is that at one time, all these archetypal contents of the center of the archetypal collective psyche could project themselves on something. There was an image that they could project upon, and it worked for maybe 1,500 years or something, until really the Reformation and the Renaissance. And the Reformation was a real movement that said, no, we can't really project on that symbol anymore. The Renaissance was the more secular answer. The rebirth of classical wisdom is really the Renaissance was the rebirth of classical wisdom. But what do we have now? We have this. They don't, there's nothing to project upon anymore. So when we project it outward, what does it fall back on? On capitalism, on inflation, on alienation, and all of that things. You can, this is from Edinger, but I just kind of drew a picture of it. It is this. He says, if the images of myth do not provide an adequate bridge to the self, the archetypal contents fall into containers that are too small for them. Career, sex, political ideology, fundamentalism, science, neurosis, social causes, materialism, cults, narcissism. Those are all containers that are too small for the mythic archetypal contents that come from the center. They have nowhere to go. But we know we need something bigger than ourselves. So we say, well, maybe our career is bigger than ourselves. Maybe sex is bigger than myself. Maybe a political movement or a social cause is bigger than myself. That doesn't answer the images of myth. I mean, it really doesn't. So that's why this is really a religious problem. Let me see. I'm just okay. Yeah, I know where I was. Well, anyway, it's talking about what the reason they can't find the individual answer is because of they have come across the gulf, the gap, the impassable point, and now they need a bridge, and it sure is not going to come from traditional religion for many people. And so when they come, they cannot cross on the bridge of their religious upbringing. The traditional religion in the end cannot provide the answer. Now, does this really surprise us? I mean, one thing I want to mention is how much we take for granted. When did writing itself started? Maybe a couple thousand years, 3,000 years ago, say, maybe 5,000. But printing didn't start until Gutenberg created his printing press. So very, very few people knew how to read until there was universal education with the printing press that Gutenberg made. And now suddenly you can learn how to read because books are more available. You don't have to sit there and have scriveners or monks write down all of the works from the library in Alexandria that happened to end up in several monasteries. And that was the only place that they were available, and so was that our original religion? I mean, before that, what did we do? For the Naskapi Cree, the major obligation was to follow the instructions given by their dreams and then give permanent form to their contents and art. and one who was receptive to the hints of the center, the companion within, got better and more helpful dreams. And this companion also became more real within the receptive person and in those who than in those who neglected him. That's was the religion that we had before suddenly we got mega civilizations, before we had cities, and then we had divisions of labor, and now we live in cities with 15 million people, you know, and all living in little apartments on the 60th floor of a high rise, you know, and we think that we can orient ourselves in that type of a collective universe. I mean, it's a little difficult, you know. And here's one thing Jung has a lot of these, but, you know, to the primitive, life is far more voluminous than to us, because there is not only the thing, the it, but also its meaning. We look at an animal today and say, oh, that's, you know, Canis familiaris or Canis lupus. You know, we identify it with some taxonomical thing, and then we think we're done, we can go home. But before, we knew that animal to be our ghost brother, you know, and you could say that a coyote is nothing special, but if you meet the master coyote, you know what you've just met, you know. So I mean, the idea is this is kind of a rediscovery of the wisdom that shaped our bodies, shaped our minds. Do you think the last 1,500 to 2,000 years has done the same shaping that the last 500,000 or 3 million years has done? You know, that's just a short. I mean, how many generations since 2000? Maybe 100. Well, how many generations since Lascaux, or since you know, since Olduvai Gorge, you know, or something like that? So the idea is that the traditional religion doesn't work. Now, to this gap that we finally, after 2,000 years of being under the spell of projected contents on an outer symbol, is now suddenly not working anymore. What do we have to fall back on? Well, this is the age of Aquarius, really. You know, the individual way, the way to such an answer can only lead to the individual wilderness. You must come across the gap between your ego and your source. And it means, this means, though, that you've dropped out of conventional security. And there is no way back to that other security except through the gateway. Now, this is the way he put it, of the willy-nilly, of the haphazard, of the unplanned and accepted insecurity, of unconventional inquiry. Now, that's a pretty good definition for dream work and active imagination. So this is really her story. Now, there is, let me see if I can just finish this really quickly, because we're almost out of time. But and they talk about the boy and his bad head, you know, for heights, but really what they're talking about, the ambivalence of everything we do has an upside and a downside. You know, everything we do is ambivalent and ambiguous. I mean, it seems like, you know, you go into the depths, you're doing your active imagination, and then the interrupter comes and says, this is all bullshit. Why are you doing this? This is not reality. This is not real. Don't tell me it's real. You know, So but now here's one thing I think I will end with is that is the unexpressed hope here between the opposites. What is that? It was not a struggle between good and bad, but between two antagonists who are looking for a compromise. So the darkness is not bad. And she was struck by Adler's comment that yes, there is good and evil, but evil is not just bad, you know. And in her case, what was bad in her, this darkness, this paralysis, was literally sent to her by God to force her out of her obvious one-sided rationality. And even though she was 48, she was asked why her apparent redeemer was just a young boy. She said, because he is ignorant, adventurous, inquiring, and naive, you know. And so now the one thing is that he goes on with the fact that she knew that this was going to isolate her and cut her off from human conflict at the deep level if she didn't address it. So that was another aspect of her as a woman, as a person who almost, even though she's a thinking function person, our daughter's a thinking function, best mother you ever saw, you know. But and we were worried about her because she was so rational. But she knows that unless she addresses the irrational that is paralyzing her, she's going to be isolated from everyone, you know, all human contact. Now, so when she goes into analysis, she feels that she will meet there the one who understands the irrationality and will show her love and acceptance. But she also, this is the law of transference, is also meeting the one who won't understand and will reject her and let her down. This is the whole idea of everywhere we go, we meet in the same person these two figures. You know, the one who understands, accepts, and loves us, but sometimes the one who doesn't understand and lets us down. You know, he was just saying that this happened during their analysis, you know. So anyway, that's pretty much finishes that. Now, I'm just going to say the next time we're going to go into some great dreams, absolutely fabulous dreams. Every one of them, you'll think you know the interpretation of beforehand. You won't know. I mean, it is amazing how unobvious these are. I mean, there's the one where she's going to go to the train, make the train station, but because she's chatting to her friend, she misses the train because the station master won't let her in. Then there is the one of well, this is one that's sort of related to the 1940s. She sees a swastika, you know, which, you know, the word swastika comes from Suwisa or something. It means well-being, you know, and it's really a sunwise, a sun wheel that turns in the clockwise direction. But when she sees the swastika of the Third Reich, you know, it's turning in the counterclockwise direction. And she says, it makes me uncomfortable. Now, it doesn't. Now, this is a good example of why we shouldn't take the subjective or view of things all the time. Because, you know, she says, well, you know, Hitler makes me uncomfortable. Well, yeah, he does, but that's not what the unconscious is telling us. what's telling us is that it makes her uncomfortable in the outer world. Yes, it makes everybody uncomfortable. So does that Z, by the way. I don't know, the Z of the Russians makes me uncomfortable. But it also makes us uncomfortable in the inner world because it's turning in the opposite direction. But the Buddhists' sun wheel turns in the opposite direction, and so does the Hopi Indians one, because it means to go into the unconscious, and not, it's a regression, And then I'll just tell you the last one, which is really cool dream. She had 3 dreams that night. Well, the third dream she had was the owl is flying over the glacier, the misty glacier. So this was sort of making the glacier more differentiated. This was in her third analysis. She had those 3 dreams the night after her second. And then the next one is going to be really good. There's the guy who told her about Jung and who told her about the labrum is sitting there waiting for a revelation. And the revelation was to come through a light shining on his face. And so she's seeing him sitting there. And what she does is she takes her brooch, which is very shiny, shows it into the sun, and puts the light on his face. So he thinks he got the revelation, but it was her trick that gave him the revelation. Now, this kind of shows, the ups and downs of an analysis. She's tricking the analyst now. She's going to lie to him. I mean, one time some guy came to Jung, and he was seeing him for about 6 months. And after 6 months, he told Jung, and he says, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but all of these dreams I've been bringing to you, I just made them up. They weren't really dreams. And Jung says, I knew that the first day. He says, but it didn't make any difference. It gave us something to talk about. And that guy experienced, he just emotionally broke down at that point. And that was the beginning of his real individuation. Well, anyway, Gary, I'm just going to turn it over. I'm sorry, I went over a little bit. So.
Oh, no problem at all. Aline, I'm just going to go in the order we have here, so you're first.
Well, I'm coming to respect this woman and her predicament more and more. I do find the analysis of the symbolism, it takes me places, Craig, that the book does not. I like, when you told me that she was in a catatonic state, I was thinking before then, well, is claustrophobia in the DSM-4? I must look that up. I don't think it is, but to imagine her now in a catatonic state, can you imagine the inner turmoil that's brewing in there? The alchemy is just palpable now that you've said that. And then when you brought in the religio, I mean, that made a lot of sense to me. Because otherwise, I don't really like this woman. Just gotta be truthful here. As part of our yoga chakra cleansing. I don't find sympathy with her. Maybe it's a projection or something, but it's like, get over yourself, pull yourself up. Don't be so lame. What are your relationships like? I imagine this woman having 0 relationships in life. 0. What a pathological state that would be. I mean, that's a hermit gone the other way. To me, it's just, but that's probably my own projection of what it would be like for me.
It's going to be quite a journey from that unsympathetic state to becoming a woman. Really, she's not a woman here. I mean, the idea, she had one male companion. She was an extrovert, but she had one male companion, and yet she was his mother, not his lover. She just became his mother, and he didn't want to love her anyway. He wanted her as his mother, the one that just would provide for him. And so the idea is she's completely unconsciously, well, she is a stone,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see her lose her stoniness, because it is at the start. I mean, she's just like a robot, but she's going to become less robotic as we go forward here.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Diane? We don't have any sound yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to apologize to everyone because I know there are new people here, and I'm because of my computer problems, I have no name on either my iPhone or my where I'm talking from. My name is Diane Shamam, but for those of you who don't know me. But yeah, I sort of feel like I'm staring into a no man's land, a black box of technology. Everything disappears and it's not working, and also this book too, or this story of this woman. I don't have access to the book. I think I'm going to order it. I feel kind of lost because of it too. So I just am very impressed, as always, Craig, with all the information that you've given. It's so much, it seems so complicated to me that I feel kind of lost right now, honestly, in this book.
Yeah, I wonder, Gary, could you send her it in Google Drive? Because I've tried through Dropbox and to send her a PDF directly.
I've got it in Google Drive, so I'll just share it from there. That should
okay.
work. Okay.
Well, because I don't know, my Dropbox does not work. But yeah, but I think the whole idea here is we're going to learn in the dreams, particularly the rule of dreams. What we're going to it really starts. I think the book really starts next with the next chapter. Is we're going to learn the rule of dreams, and there's a lot. We're going to. I mean, I've learned so much about dream interpretation from Adler's way of interpreting her dreams. What's the causality in a dream? If this happens in the dream, what does that imply for what follows? I mean, that's the way he always looks at it. This happened. So what would you guess would happen next? And usually what happens next is not what you would guess, and but then you realize that what happened next could not happen if the first thing hadn't happened. So it's just a very interesting way of learning how to navigate through these strange images of a dream, and that's pretty much all we'll be dealing with from now on is her dreams, which I think the thing that's most amazing about her dreams is how how surprising and astonishing they are. They're just absolutely astonishing, and I think how human they are too. I'm hoping that before we're done here, we're going to see a human being, not a stone,
John, would you like to go next?
Oh, sorry. Did you say John?
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet's cutting in and out, so it's hard to hear. Just enjoyed listening. I mean, I just, like you said, I appreciate Adler and the way he's able to tease out a lot of the imagery and symbology of her dream images. It just, blows me away. I don't see any of that. I'm just a novice and learning, and it just it constantly amazes me, the wisdom of the dream and the images that the psyche uses to convey that. So, but I'm at a total loss when it comes to my own dreams, which is why I have an analyst. But it's a great session today. Thanks.
Angelique?
I find Adler more difficult to my grasp in comparison to von Franz or Jung, because I feel he's using more Freudian sort of terms like hyperego, which confuses me. I'm not quite sure at times what he means, but then it's interesting the way he finds, the way he approaches the movement of her images. I think I experience him as quite in motion himself, which shows a talent in him, a rare talent in an analyst, not being frozen himself by each frozen image she brings, which sometimes can be difficult when a client brings such strong imagery of unmoving, of inerted images from the unconscious in her psyche. It's quite difficult for an analyst to be flexible as Adler is. So this is something I admire in him, I have to say. The swastika, I don't know why, but today about this woman, this image of Medusa keeps coming, and the idea of the sacred feminine, but in its freezing aspect, this terrible looking into her eyes, where everybody would be frozen in terms of feelings, frozen in terms of embodiment, frozen in terms of sexuality, frozen of any libidinal force in the Jungian terminology would be frozen in facing Medusa. So when you said, Craig, that she had the swastika, which made her feel very uncomfortable as an image, and bringing it to Adler, I remember. I think Sicily, it must be Sicily, has this flag. Its flag is part of the swastika. You may find it. It's 3 legs, and it represents the legs of the Medusa. And this, for me, it's a century. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. It's a century fugal. It's an image coming deep from the unconscious of a centrifugal power, which is the dissolving power that moves from the center to the parts. So it's a dissolving power of the sacred feminine, instead of a centripetal force, which is the mandalas that Jung describes. So what Medusa represents in my sort of, as far as I have gone in my research, is her ability to dissolve things from the center and create this frigidity. And what the mandalas do is they gather back things from the center into a unity that brings back balance and brings back communion with the unconscious and brings back the positive aspects of connecting to the feminine.
Could you say that one more time, Angelique? It was so beautiful. Just about the mandala bringing things back. And Medusa, can you just repeat it, what you said?
Yes, I do hope I'm not using the wrong. Let me just. I'll exit my full screen for a moment just to make sure I am using. I can't find it at the moment, but I do hope I'm using the right. Yes, I mean, the wrathful aspect of the dark, like the dark feminine, the wrathful aspect of the feminine, has the part of it is presented with archetypal centripetal qualities, which is dissolving things from the center. It's the death aspect of the dark eros. And these are the legs of Medusa. Actually, I'm not sure where I got this from. I'm not even sure if this is mine, very subjective, or I have read it from exactly. Thank you, Craig. This is Medusa the center. This is actually the flag of Sicily. And these are her legs. And this is a movement that takes from the center and dissolves to the universe. This is what happens when we die. Matter dissolves itself, and becomes energy. So this is a destructive kind of aspect of the feminine, but that depends on the movement of the swastika, if you like. Is it clockwise? Is it anti-clockwise? These are movements of the Kundalini. I shouldn't say more, but so mandala has a unifying. Mandala has a unifying quality. It brings things that are dissolved. It brings things back towards the center. That's why you discovered that with mandalas could bring things back to a unity. Whereas Medusa has this freezing aspect, and swastika is a movement that brings back to this union. So, but I think I have read the connection of the swastika as an archetypal image, which comes from the depths of Tibetan Buddhism, but also from ancient Greek later on. And the use of its appropriation by the Nazists had its reasons. So it was a dissolving aspect. So it was a movement of the feminine moving away from a center, destroying, if you like. So I was interested. I'm very interested in her feelings towards the appearance of that archetypal image, because she seems to feel very uncomfortable about it. So I wonder if she is witnessing a state of her unconscious, what is happening at that moment during her analysis with Adler, and that results in specific feelings to her observer, if you like, to her ego consciousness seems to have.
What do you think? Now you can see Medusa's snakes on her head, but it looks like there's also, is that 3 shafts of wheat?
Yes, because Sicily has a deep, when the Kostovoks burned Eleusis, and Christianity started rather violently and aggressively exterminate ancient Greek religion, then everything was moved to the southern of Italy and Sicily mainly, where the secret worship of the goddesses was kept undisturbed and uninterrupted. So there's a lot of mystical symbolism in that flag. Lots of secrets.
Wings. Are those wings on her head or not? What do you think they are? Are they wings on our left and right head?
I think they are, as you say, they are wheat, but they are shafts of wheat, but they have its symbolism. The legs take things from the center, and possibly, I am going to guess here, but possibly the shafts of wheat give birth, and the legs destroy. So it's sort of, but it's number 3 and not 4. So the feminine is represented in a in two threes here, her creative and her destructive aspects. So this woman has a very, I wonder if this woman has very destructive image, an image of the wrathful feminine starts coming up, is being offered now to the analyst, in a way that makes her feel very uncomfortable about. There's a destructive element of the feminine. Maybe that's what I felt, maybe it's not.
Well, that is just a couple of things. One thing I like about Adler, and I would say too about the woman, is the idea of she's just overcommitted, overvalued to the thinking function, to the ego world, and to the masculine world. That she overvalues all of those things, and she undervalues the feminine, the feeling, and that world. She undervalues that completely. I mean, in other words, it's not worth her time. Now, and then in comes the boy, who's the feeling function, and he's sort of like she is the enchanted castle, and he's going to be the boy who lifts her purse, But that is so beautiful, Angelique. I'd like to have you think about that too for next time. The difference between the mandala and the swastika, or one dissolves the center and the other one brings it in.
If you think of if you think of Second World War and Picasso's Guernica. Picasso's Guernica is the movement of the swastika. Yes. Is the turning of the Kundalini that dissolves. If you look at Guernica, it's that dismembering. If you look at mandalas of Tibetan tradition, then you look the other turning of the wheel, if you like, where things come to a unity. So it's the different turnings. And I think the problem with some religions is really when they neglect, yes. Well, that's a version. I don't think that's.
Yeah, that's not that might be a different one.
I don't think that's Picasso's, but maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is not Picasso's. Just a second. Here it is. All right, just a sec. Let me get it in here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now we can show it. Yeah, I know. I noticed it was just one that was in color, but
it was a lovely one, actually.
Yeah,
it was very nice. That's right. That's the one. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the bombarding of his birth town, and you can see the bull again, an archetypal image, very very strong. The bull, it's Dionysus having gone wrong. It's exactly when Dionysus as a bull destroys Pentheus. So this is the turning of the feminine, where the feminine destroys. That's the war. And it's no accident that for that war, the swastika was chosen as an archetypal image. So for me, it's a problem when some religions do not look at the feminine in both its aspects, its destructive, darker eros, as well as it's giving birth to things.
What do you think of the eye there? Do you have any thoughts about that eye?
In Hermes the Trismegistus, there is this Horus eye, the Egyptian eye, Kore Cosmo. That's a lovely text in Hermeticism, Kore Cosmo. A lovely text where Hermes is discussing with his son, I think. So there are archetypal. This is an archetypal, interesting archetypal work on the eye.
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to say that you mentioned, The one thing that Adler does, and that I like about Adler, is his childlike astonishment at the imagery in the dreams. I think you're going to find that all the time. I mean, he says that in the preface that it was just such a experience for him as an analyst to. He says he never got over it. Every image to him was a revelation to him, especially after spending a lot of time and having its secret wisdom suddenly become visible, after a lot of work. It wasn't originally thing. And I think in every one of these dreams that she has, I'm guessing what it is means I didn't know, so anyway, well, thank Angelique. That was just absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
Indeed, that was just fantastic. It'd be worth another discussion on. Kat, would you like to go next?
I'm actually quite, I don't know, I'm quite connecting with this woman and what Angelique said about Medusa, because it reminds me of the dream that I had where one of my powers was to turn people into stone. And the only redeeming aspect of that was that it was crying tears. So I agree with what Angelique's saying, but there's also preservation that goes along with that as well as the dissolving. There is a preservation. And also I'm relating to this woman and her story in the fact that she has a child hero. I've just discovered something in one of my dreams, that I had a black snake just recently turn green and turn into a child, which at first I was very much, when I came to work with it, I very wary of this feral being, but at the same time, it turned out to be something I very much needed, which was like, to me, like the magical child, the divine child, the absolute zest for life. It's a creation. It's all creation. And death is just like shedding of skins, really, type of thing. So yeah, it's just wonderful. And thank you, Angelique, because it was just like, oh my God, I was thinking of Medusa and everything else. It's just like, oh my God. So, and thank you, Craig, and thank you, everybody, just to bring all this to life. And I'm just fascinated with this lady's story and her journey, really. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kat. That's beautiful. Thank you. I mean, the dream images too. The Medusa. I'm so grateful to you, Angelique, for bringing up the Medusa, the stony aspect. But I think too that this woman in the beginning, she does have a very morbid quality. She's not likable at all. But the idea is taking the stone and to make it human. I mean, this is going to be a real long journey to take someone who is frozen in stone and to make them human.
Sort of the ultimate dissolving aspect, to turn a stone into human. Ava, would you like to go next?
Yes, this lecture was very clarifying in many ways for me. And when you say, Craig, that you are so impressed of Adler's way of interpretation, I was thinking about how much he was taking on Tony Wolff's way, because he had both. And of course, an antithesis to Medusa. It was very nice to see an alternative way of putting it. but maybe it wasn't just an antitest, but something like, okay, I'm happy to be here and thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eva. Annette?
Oh, sorry. Hi. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful lecture and lovely process. The stone becoming alive again. And I just would like Angelique's words reminded me of the eclipse that's happening now this weekend, actually tomorrow morning here in Ireland. And Pluto is connected with Medusa, I think. And we're moving from the Scorpio collectively to the Taurus. And apparently it's a big deal. That's what people in astrology land say. It's a big era, a big change. And Medusa and Scorpio are often connected to the, how to say, the destructive part or the cleansing part, perhaps, of ourselves. And then that we have to become empty to start again or something.
Yeah, that's,
Fascinating. Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
yeah. Oh, I just say I'm looking forward to the eclipse. I don't think we're going to see it here, but
Yeah, I know we've got the super blood moon or whatever currently. You know, we had that last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dahlia?
Hi, hello to all, and I enjoyed listening, and I extremely enjoyed the drawings. Very, I know, very. I love the drawings. So and the images, and yeah, I'm not. I agree with Aline. I don't have lots of motivation reading this book, but it's totally different, like with reading Von Franz, which was like burning, and this is something very, very difficult and different, but I'm enjoying the discussions very much. So thank you.
Great. Azin? Are you there, Azin? I guess I'll go on to Janita, if that's the correct pronunciation. Kevin?
Yeah, sure. I haven't really heard all the dreams. What I heard was just the stone, and yeah, I have difficulty believing. It sounds very cheesy, but I think most analysis, and especially this one, I mean, is to dissolve the stoneness. I mean, that's I feel like I think it's an Eros problem, and you know, and to have an analyst that can connect, you know, really at that level. I don't know. It's not easy to find, I think, because this is this is not so much about analysis of Prima as such, even though there are tools. You know, this is connecting with her core being, I would say, and so yeah, I say good luck if Adler managed to help her and to get the flow, the animation going again. I mean, that's a big deal. If he could do that, then yeah, I will have respect for him. But yeah, very few analysts, I think, would be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, you know, this would be, to have an analyst like that is, you know, 1 in 10,000. Azin, would you like to go?
Yeah, hello everybody. I have to confess I didn't have time to read the book, so I'm kind of disconnected. I'm just listening. But as I was listening to Angelique, I think one important parameter is the direction of the movement. I know that in yin-yang magic circle, if it goes clockwise, it means that the two opposite forces, the male and female principle, are integrating. So there's movement, and there's progress and transformation. But if it goes backwards, like anti-clockwise, it's a battle between two opposite forces. So they kind of neutralize each other. It's not productive, it's not fertile, nothing coming out of it, and it's just destructive. So I think the movement is an important parameter here, as in hermaphrodite. I think it was a boy who couldn't integrate with the feminine principle. So many people think hermaphrodite is an integration of yin and yang or female male principles, but it's not. It's a neutralize. The forces are neutralizing each other. They're not enlivening each other. So I think, I don't know about 3 legs or 4 legs, Medusa, Mandela. I think a part of this, that it's destructive or it's productive, I think is the direction.
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
Yeah, that's really going to come up, is that it is in the sinister direction. The turning of the German swastika is going to the left. But sinister has 2 meanings. It means both left-handed and something that is very something that is very evil, or something, so anyway, that's going to come up in there. Like I said, well, go ahead, Lazine.
And you also said that this woman is not really a woman.
She's so devoted, overvaluing her masculine side, and
so the masculinity
alienating.
here has not been fertilizing or enlivening the female in her, but it was suppressing it and neutralizing. So right now she's not a woman, she's not a man.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Did we get everybody, Gary, or not?
Well, Anita didn't, and I don't know if I pronounced the name correctly, but anyone that's got anything additional to say, or Anita, you have anything? And you can correct my pronunciation.
Yeah, I'm Janita. Yeah,
Okay,
and it's
Janita.
been wonderful, listening to the lecture. It's very, very interesting. So like it's my first time here, and so for this time I'll just keep it to listening, and maybe next time. Thanks.
Thank you, Janita. Okay, well, like I say, we'll try to hurry through this, and then let's have a group consultation on what book you want to read. The thing that is good about von Franz is it is small. These are all lectures that she gave at the Zurich Institute that someone took the notes on. Daryl Sharp was one of them, and put them into a book. And right now, and actually have access to there's going to be 28 volumes of her collected works, and I have 3 of them, which I can send us or anyone here, and we can find out what we want. Or one other thing I thought that if anyone likes, we could look at Marion Woodman's My Father's House too. I don't know, that's sort of the thing about both Adler and Woodman is they're a little more modern. I mean, a little more, they're dealing with modern problems, modern people, where von Franz is dealing with more with mythic themes and archetypal contents, which, anyway. But anyway, we'll all come to a group
Gary?
decision. Yeah, go ahead.
Craig.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you to repeat one of those last things you said when you said the unexpressed hope between opposites. Would you repeat that?
Are you talking about her? Is that she the unexpressed hope? Let me just say that she had was that this problem was not one of good and evil in her. It was one of two antagonists that needed to have a compromise. So that was the unexpressed hope in her darkness and her blackness, and the fact that she was so stony, is that this is not a moral problem. You know, it's a problem of antagonists.
I think I
That's
guess
really helpful.
I guess it's what Jung says about integrating the opposites rather than getting into the either or. Right.
Yeah, and what Zine said about the yin and the yang too. So that's very helpful to understand how to move out of that.
Yeah. And she says to Adler, you know, when they talked about whether it was good and evil, says, yeah, of course, there's good and evil. That's not what you're facing here. And by the way, even if it was what you're facing, he says, evil is not all bad. You know, the badness that you're experiencing right now is your cure. You know, this is what is going to cure you of your stoniness. And it is this despairing, desperate cry of nature to her, which is tremendously alive, for her to acknowledge its presence. I mean, that's pretty much, that's one thing you can take from this is that every time you have a nightmare, it is something that is begging for your attention, you know, and the only way, what it's saying, the only way that you can cure this is to be in the unbearable state, but don't stay there. I'm going to put you in the unbearable state right now by giving you this nightmare, the dream maker says, but you have to learn that you can't stay here. So how do you do that? I mean, that's sort of the question. But anyway, I guess unless there's any other comments, please make them right now. Go ahead, Angelique. Did you have one? Yeah.
I have an issue with something he writes on page 44 about the Greek gods. He says something like, the Greek gods were concrete reality to ancient Greeks because they were unaware of their symbolic aspect.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, we take unconscious as a concrete reality, whereas it is a symbol. Right. And I feel awkward about both of these views of his, because I think that I disagree. I don't think ancient Greeks had the Greek gods as a concrete reality. The opposite. Concrete reality was lightning. It wasn't Zeus. So it was actually the opposite. I think
you're right.
They had a transitory value to connect them with the laws of nature. So they were very strong, powerful archetypal symbols. And I also have an issue with we take unconscious as a concrete reality, whereas it is a symbol. I don't think the unconscious is a symbol. And I think Jung has mentioned a couple of times that for him, the unconscious is a reality. And not. He said, I don't think, I know, when he was asked. But maybe, I don't know Adler, because Adler continuously confuses me with the use of some terms which are more Freudian. So I get easily confused with Adler. So I hypothesize that with both these sort of views of his, he might mean something totally different by the word symbol, rather than what I have in mind
Yeah.
as what I define as reality or what I define as simple. So I find him difficult to decode because I come from where I come through my reading. So maybe I misjudge him, you know, maybe I miss something in the way he sees it.
Yeah, I saw that too. I mean, what he was trying to say is, when did the Greek gods no longer become symbols? You know, at some point. Now they're being reformulated and re-energized now, and becoming they're becoming from deadness now to something that relivens us. Azim, did you have something to say? I don't want to.
Yeah, I think what he's saying about taking gods as a real thing, not a symbol. First of all, I don't think real and symbolic are contradictory. I think reality can be really, really symbolic. And we believe in depth psychology, we live a symbolic life. So everything, our dreams are real. Our imaginal are real, but they have layers of meaning, as well as everything that we see in outer world. But I think when he's talking about, I didn't read that part, but I think every people who believe in something, they take it kind of literal, and it's easier for us to see other religions, other gods, other beliefs as symbolic. So Campbell actually suggests that if you want to get out of a prison in our belief systems, we have to look at other religions, other beliefs, and see how symbolic they are. They're not literal, but we have a tendency to take our symbols literal and solid and concrete reality.
Yeah, the idea of the concrete, is it mean literal? Is that what he means? I mean, I'm like Angelique. I wasn't exactly sure what he means by concrete.
I think so, because you really, really believe that okay, there was Jesus and
yeah, there you go. That's a concrete symbol. Jesus existed. He lived in a time and place. He was born and is actually real. So that's concretizing the image.
If I look at Indian gods, the hybrids, like head of elephant and body of a human, I know that it's not literal, it's mythological, it's symbolic. But for an Indian person, when I was in India, I could see how literal they were. They were real gods.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angelique. Did you have something to say about it too?
No, I meant to say thank you, because the way you explain it, it makes sense to me, that he means literal rather than real. Yeah. So they use the way, you know, a person today with a specific religion takes these gods not as symbolic, but just very, very real and existing in a way, as Craig said about, you know.
But
Jesus.
even when they see this literal, God has different aspects. So there is a symbolic layer to all of this being literal.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you, everybody. I mean, like I say, I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible, but I think that at least we'll go through it. I mean, maybe in a few more sessions, and then let's all agree on a book that is one that, as Dahlia says, burns in us. You know. Okay.
May I ask, Craig, which page you think you have stopped now?
Yeah, right now we're at 69. So we'll start on page 70. It's the beginning of a new chapter. It's called let me look at it real quick. It's called well, it's on page 70. It's the start of a new chapter. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I think it's anyway. We're going to start on our dreams, and we'll try to go through those efficiently. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Oh, Azim, did you have something? Oh no, just say it. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye, Dahlia and Annette, and John, and Ava,
Thank
and
you.
Janita, and Diane, Gary, and Azine, and Kevin. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Very good.
Annette too.